wherever you find a problem, actually, there may be an opportunity. It's not how you look at the solution. When you say you as an entrepreneur, others may not look at like it, and that's why it's a high probability of failure. My name is Harsha. I've been leading the Nordic India Startup Summit at TechBBQ. I have 2 decades of financial services experience in India. I've worked with large brands in India. During the COVID times, I was instrumental in helping to launch US wealth tech SaaS platform in India. I had that cross-border experience, and I had some conversations going on in UK as well. Having experience, and I thought Denmark, India also would be easy. But when I landed in Copenhagen, uh, I didn't even get a meeting for 3 months.
How was Harsha 20 years ago? What was the main starting point when you decide maybe to go in finance, or what was the drive in that?
That's 20 years back. I had spent some time on the tech. I'm from Bangalore. It's a tech similar to Silicon Valley in India. Bangalore is known for the IT and the tech. So since I come from that place, I haven't had an experience of tech. By accident, I fell into financial services. By nature, I was a techie person, but started enjoying the public markets, stock market and so on and so forth. Fortunate, I was working for a large brand in India, and that's how my journey started in financial services.
So it wasn't something planned to go in finance. It was more about opportunities and then discovering along the way.
Yes, that's right. It was purely discovery because I thought I will end up in tech, but I ended up in financial services.
Was there back then any assumption you have about how this journey is going to end? So how you kept that idea going?
I started my career in financial services in 2003. So from 2003 till 2015, it was a core financial services experience, nothing to do with tech. In 2015, there was a wave of wealth tech. I was fortunate to get another opportunity working in wealth tech in a large financial services company. So that's why I slowly moved back to wealth tech right from 2015. That was the beginning of fintech and wealth tech in India and as well as globally too. So that's why I ended up back to tech.
You landed here and say, I'm going to bring so many people in this conversation, link India, and then you realize that something was missing. But there's a lack of understanding also in India about the Nordics, and the Nordics lack of understanding about India.
Yeah. So this learning did not come overnight. It took months for me to realize this. So when I landed in June 2023, for 3 months, Andrea, I didn't get a meeting. A person with almost 20 years of experience couldn't get a meeting in Copenhagen. And so there may be two problems. I'm not positioning myself well. If that is true, then how did I get conversations going in US and India, right? So the problem is not proposition. Have I not reached out to right people? No, because I understand the startup ecosystem well. So I reached out to the right people. I used this good script. But why is it I didn't get meeting? It's because a couple of them did respond to me, right? I'm talking in Copenhagen. They mentioned that why India, right? Because they have other countries' neighborhood in Denmark that will solve their problem. For them, they didn't look up India as nothing to do with startup ecosystem. So that's where I realized that hey, there is something a problem. And then when I met some of my uh, Indian diaspora people here, they pointed out to Avneet and TechBBQ. And that's why I ended up meeting TechBBQ. And then the next story starts.
And why did you keep going? Why not after a couple of months, maybe I find a regular job? Why the hustle?
Because of my past experience, I have that entrepreneurial uh, instinct. I didn't want to get into a job. The first drive was, can I be part of Copenhagen startup ecosystem? That was my goal. Either I can be helpful with the founder or I can be part of the venture capital ecosystem. So these were the two places where I was reaching out, but I couldn't get through. So, I didn't have any interest getting into a traditional job. That was not my aspiration at all when I came to Copenhagen.
Would you do something different if you go back to the moment when you reached Copenhagen?
Yes, maybe I should have posted more about myself on LinkedIn, which I didn't do. Social media was a big miss. Maybe that would have opened some doors. But I said that social media is one thing. Why not meet people in person? Not having a meeting, it was literally a heartbreak to me. Then when I met people, they said that there is nothing happening between India and Nordic in the startup ecosystem. Then I went back and did a research. It was a revelation. And this is the story which caught many people and started opening up. If you look at last 3 years in Nordics, there are about 2,500 VC transactions. If you look at all the 5 countries, last 3 years, cumulative, there are about 2,500 transactions, VC deals. Whereas in India, similarly, if you look at last 3 years, there are about 3,500, approximately 3,600 transactions. That means so many people, investments have happened in last 3 years. These are independent, 2,500 and maybe take it 3,500. Both are equally matured startup ecosystems, both Nordic and India. But when I look at the cross-border, how much from these 5 countries, capital pouring in India, hardly all 3 years put together is not even 35 transactions.
So you spotted this gap, and then you say
Yeah.
that, okay, maybe this is a niche where I can focus on.
Yes.
Tell me about what you are working right now. What is your main focus?
The first one was to create awareness. When I started this journey in October 2023, I met a couple of relevant stakeholders, important stakeholders, and started presenting the story. And happy to share that the first Made in Nordic India Startup Summit happened on 9th of September 2024. 4 startups who traveled from India with invitation. And that's how the journey started. That was in 24. And in 2025, we were there. There are about 26 startups who traveled, some from 4 to 26. So I think the key thing is to create awareness first, right? I mean, between two startup ecosystems. So I think that problem, uh, I think now is almost there now, because now thanks to the geopolitics and everything, certainly uh, both the regions are looking at elsewhere. So it's showing up. So the awareness, I think the journey last 2 years have been reasonably, I'm happy.
What do you think is the most important quality a person has to have when starts a project, or like you, for example?
Perseverance, I think hard work is key, because so if you look at my own history here, most of the time the doors are closed. You have to go and knock and stand, and then the door opens and tell a story. So I think perseverance is very important.
Were there any moments where you felt a bit disappointed, or you felt that want to give up?
Yes, the 3 months of not having a meeting certainly is a story. And second, why startup ecosystem between Nordic and India? So during the journey between the first summit happened on November 24, and the second summit happened in August of 2025. So there were in between itself many conversations. Why Nordic India Startup Summit, right? So there was always questions when we are trying to bridge this solving the large problems, large country problems. But on the ground, I see the connecting the dots. Not everybody able to see the connecting the dots. So I think it's important we communicate what we are thinking through. I think so. I didn't want to give it up at all. I kept trying, and it's working.
What is the prediction for this year Nordic India Startup Summit?
While the awareness has been done, now the next is to create density. This time it has to be more than 50 startups, right, from India. But not only India, now the intent is to include all the 5 countries, right, in Nordics. And happy to share some of other countries also have shown interest, other embassies who are in India. So I think the key is to make it more dense. More number of startups both in India and Nordics come and talk to and share the synergies.
How was that transition? How did you feel when that was coming?
For me, I realized that the number of phone calls was high during that week. It's very intense, and hardly there is no sleep for 4 days. So that's how it's like a seasonality, right? It happens. And I am used to this seasonality of 3 to 4 days of fame.
Looking back to this 20 years ago, what would be something you will tell yourself all these years along with the mindset from right now?
So I've realized now that there have been a lot of learnings. Wherever you find a problem, actually there may be an opportunity, is what I've realized now. Wherever you feel there is some serious problem, right? Actually, it could be business, it could be in life. Actually, there may be an opportunity as well, right? Which we don't, because of problem, we don't look at that opportunity. That's what I've realized.
At some point you also fail, right? It's a natural process, especially being an entrepreneur. How do you deal with that? What is your mindset around this?
There is a high probability of failure, right? If you look at the data itself, over 95% of early stage startups fail. So that means as a founder, as an entrepreneur, there is a high probability of failure. Once that failure happens, suddenly there is a learning there. That's what there is a learning, and you need to look at another idea based on the learning from this project. So I think, yeah, that's how it is.
First, there is always an opportunity in problems, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how life it is. And then second, when you have a failure, you just have to learn from it, right? You have to implement it, and then you learn something, and then you re-implement it again. What do you think would be this high probability of failure? Why would be a reason behind it? Do you have an idea?
Yes, because as an entrepreneur, you're solving a problem which is very hard and which is not existed. Every entrepreneur is trying to solve, either it is a painkiller or a vitamin tablet. I'm just giving an analogy, right? What I meant is that you may believe that this is a painkiller, but actually for some it may be like a vitamin tablet. But if you're lucky, if everybody believes it's a painkiller, then your product is a big success, right? So it may fall in between a painkiller and a vitamin tablet, or some people don't even consider this as a medicine for you, and it may be. So it's not how you look at the solution. When you say you as an entrepreneur, others may not look at like it, and that's why it's a high probability of failure.
So you are saying that one of the biggest challenges when starting a business, it's trying to cope with these different worldviews other have about your product or your service, and then making them believe that your recipe is the right one. It's the hardest part, actually. It's not the product.
Assuming if you're able to succeed in selling the story that mine is a painkiller, then it has to work. It's not work also.
You still need a functional product.
Yeah, functional product. And to work, then you need a team, right? For example, I was lucky. If you look at last 2 years, in 2025, you are there, right? If you had not been there, it would have been very difficult for me. So I was lucky to have you as a team member. Earlier in 24 also, there were few people who were lucky to have them as a team member. So for product to succeed, not only the idea, the story, I think team is extremely important. So there are many variables which has to align.
The team part of a product. How do you maintain that vision of a founder in a team when things go rough? And I think this analogy can apply a bit, on your own project with NISS.
So I think the bottom line is that you have to believe, and the fact is that you're solving a cross-border problem, right? And the data also supports it, right? And it's a real problem. So you have that faith and you have the data. I mean, Denmark and India, or Nordic in India, they have been there in history, right? I mean, so I am aware that this can't be solved in 1 or 2 years. It will take few years. It won't happen overnight. And not every team member understands this. It can't happen overnight. So you'll have to be, as a leader of the project, you will have to be at it because you know that there is a real problem to be solved. And for me, it's a painkiller, not a vitamin tablet, right? If I show some transactions between Nordic and India, then you have a solution. You have solved. The team to what I am seeing, the team, it will take few months for the team members to look at it. And that's what happened between you and me, right? So it took few weeks for you to understand what I'm trying to solve, even though you are not traveled to India at all, right? You don't know much about Indian startup ecosystem.
What good advice you can give to someone who wants to start a project? Like from a founder to founder, what would be good advice? Because you also have experience, right? You also moved to a lot of stages, to a lot of branches, a lot of things that didn't connect back then, but I imagine they connect right now using your knowledge to explain data. There must be some common framework that you have that you can pass to someone else to not maybe struggle as much as you.
Actually, the fact is there is no playbook, right, for all founders, because situation is very, very diverse, right? And the landscape of tech is changing so much. Being very open-minded and not having any assumptions and being curious, I think that will start opening up a lot of ideas for a founder. So now, that means today what you are thinking may not be true tomorrow.